hearing regarding the truth and taxation on November 14th at 6:33. Secretary, call the roll.
Rose.
Here.
Carl.
Here.
Kitsky.
Here.
Durin.
Here.
Dillazier. Here. Aguirre.
Here.
Fingerhut.
Here.
Will you notice she's on video? I'll text her.
Can you hear me?
Like she's trying to talk or pay or something.
I can hear you.
I just texted her asking if she could hear.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. I didn't do anything different. So, okay.
You're on.
I'm here.
All right. Okay. All right. So then, we'll do questions and answers. Okay, you wanna?
We have to do a roll call.
Roll call start meeting.
On the time.
Eric just did, there, just did that.
6:33. All present.
Connected in right now.
Christiane.
We have a PowerPoint that I think we're gonna pull up. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for having me this evening and for giving me the ability to conduct our truth and taxation hearing. If we go to the next slide, Anna. Tonight's meeting is about giving you a small summary, but also giving the community an opportunity to speak or give testimony related to our levy. So in summary, regarding our levy has not changed from the last time it was presented to the board. We are estimating right now that we will be requesting an increase of the first arrow, which is 8.3% increase, but we only anticipate we will receive a 5.1% increase, which is what you see in the second arrow over here. So while we are asking for this, we anticipate we will receive this much based on the actual tax cap laws. Just a reminder that we balloon that extension that we're requesting to give us the opportunity between now and when we actually do the budget and when we finalize our levy to have the ability to move between funds if we need to, if we realize there are budgetary needs in those funds next year. But mainly so that we have the ability to make sure that we capture all of our tax levy proceeds. That's one of the biggest reasons why you inflate. If we go to the next slide, the next slide summarizes for you. I'll actually summarize it. So the next slide summarizes for you the anticipated increase to the taxpayer. So based on those figures and what we presented, we are anticipating that the average taxpayer for District 75, their tax bill will increase by about $162. Now, being that we have shared services and we have the inside scoop on board reports, we're able to actually see what the high school is estimating for their levy increase. And so when you combine those two totals, because all of the District 75 elementary parents pay high school taxes as well, we anticipate the increase to be an additional $100 or $262,000 for the average $300,000 homeowner. One thing I did want to mention is that those figures did change from last time in that we were notified by the county that the homestead property tax exemption, which if you look at your tax bills, you all have one, Those of you who are not retired, you have a different one. But the homestead exemption has gone up for this coming year, which means you actually pay less in taxes. So here's the slide. So as we look, you have kind of like with your taxes, with your personal taxes, how you have standardized deductions. It's kind of like that, where you have standardized homestead exemption. And we see it increasing from last fiscal year of 6,000 to 8,000 this year, which is bringing down tax bills. So that concludes the summary of our levy, because we have gone through this with the board. And at this time, we open it up for community comment, if we have any. Do we have?
So first, board members, do you have any other clarifying questions you might need from T? Then T's report would be done, and then we'll go to public comment.
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
Okay.
So, Keith Boss,
If no one here has questions, I will ask them in.
Hello, I know a bunch of you here. I used to sit in those chairs 20 plus years ago, so I kind of understand the challenges District 75 has. The reality is that I'm not necessarily against this here. I think that District 75, in conjunction with the high school, has done some things that I disapprove of. So what I want to ask for is two things. Number one, I'd like to ask, I'm going to submit a FOIA, and I don't know how to do that. I've called 120 office and I've called the 75 office, and I couldn't find anybody that would answer my call, which is kind of surprising given the amount of administrators that are here. So I was wondering if somebody could tell me maybe afterwards how I could submit a FOIA to get some information. That being said, I'll give you a little hint, because I know that the idea behind pushing 120 and 75 together was admirable to get in sync. We did that with baseball, Little League, getting them in sync with the high school, with the high school program. I understand that. What I'm not understanding is the fact that when I hired Mark Pilot back in the day to be on the principal for Carl Sandberg, we had maybe 3 administrators at this office. We did not have a crowd of administrators, and we kept a very tight rein on that. And I would suggest, and the high school will get the same questions from me, I would suggest, if I could have the high school way to, or if I could get it for both ways, that'd be great. I would suggest that we look internal, particularly at the high school, but I need to understand before I make any judgments about 75, I need to understand how much 75 pays versus how much 120 pays. Because in my opinion, there are a whole lot of principals. We need principals, don't get me wrong. The superintendents, the assistant superintendents, the assistant superintendents, the assistant. There are a lot of administrative people that when I was here on the 75 board, we did not have. We did not need them. We were able to make things work without that. And I would implore, you'll get the money, because I think it's well needed. You definitely need the money. But I think there are ways that we can go by and look at how do you figure out how to whittle down some of those administrative costs. Teachers are fantastic. We need to take care of our teachers. We need to also look at the other infrastructure around that. This building is so much different than when we first bought it. I got to tell you, we didn't have a boardroom like this before. So there are a lot of things. Again, I am a very frugal person. And when I was on the board, I looked at every dollar. Every dollar that we put out there was my dollar, because I paid the taxes on it. So I looked at it from a very conservative perspective. I expect you guys to do the same. Thank you very much. I appreciate you listening.
thank you. Are there any, study on,
There are people, but no questions.
no questions? Are there any other questions from the public? Okay. There's no further business to come before the board on this topic. The meeting stands adjourned. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Come on. Motion?
Second.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The public hearing is closed. So we will now call to order the regular Board of Education meeting at 6:45. And again, then, are there any citizens who wish?
Roll call.
Oh,
Rose.
here.
Carl.
Here.
Pinsky. Here. Darren.
Here.
Pelletier. Here. Aguirre.
Here.
Finger hut.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Are there any citizen comment outside of, what we just had with that meeting? Any public comment? So, we're gonna go outside of the, change the,
What? No, go ahead and do the code of conduct.
okay. The next then, the Board of Education comments and comments from any of the board members. Next then, Eric, Board of, Code of Conduct.
We are on code number 5. Code number 5 says, I will abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels. The author goes on to say, thus, if the majority of the board votes opposite the way you vote, you have an obligation to support the board and the superintendent. You do retain the right to keep your opinions and share them during legal and appropriate situations, but never to undermine the board decision, other school board members, or the administration. Thank you.
And now we have reports from teaching and learning. I believe that Mark Pilot and Company will now take center stage.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Good evening. My name's Mark Pilot. I'm the principal at Sandburg. We are very excited to be with you tonight. I brought several people with us to talk to you a little bit about what's going on at Sandburg. I was just telling Dr. Myers, this presentation was one of the harder ones that I had to come up with because I was stumped on what to do. And so Dr. Cacciatore, when I was talking to her about it just yesterday, he's like, I think you brought the kitchen sink. We brought it all. We brought everything that's going on at Sandburg, because why it's so hard on what to bring to you tonight is because there's just not one thing we're proud of. You know, we're proud of our athletic programs. We could have brought our second place and first place conference champion basketball or volleyball and soccer teams, our cross country teams, the kids that went to state and placed at state. We have our 7th year of the musical going on with Descendants. I urge you to buy a ticket when that comes out around the winter break. We have our dual language program rolling up into 7th grade. There's just so much going on. And so what we decided to do, Mr. Wood and I, was basically bring you a picture of what Sandburg is through the eyes of our tiger, through the eyes of our tigers. And so we have several tigers with us tonight. We have 6 of them. We have Angelo Zapata, Alina Samano, Yana Ferrier, Zoe Kennedy, Jacob Williams, and Xander Schmidt. They each have portions that they'll be coming before you tonight. And then we have 31 kids on a video. just to explain what's going on. And so we are very excited. The way we set this up, and if you would go to the next slide, is we structured it around our two goals. And so we've talked to our staff about the goals. The first one being we always want to see our kids grow and achieve in literacy, reading and writing and mathematics. And the second one being the C of the code, which is creating a stronger community. And so what we did, and if you would go to the next slide, is we asked our staff. You all know Sandburg has a mission statement of committed to success, prepared for a future of possibilities. And then we lived that mission through the code. How are you prepared for future possibilities? We create community, we take ownership, we engage in effort, or we engage in discovery, and we put forth effort. And what we asked our staff to do for the first goal that our district came up with was, what do we want our kids to know and be able to do after 3 years of language arts classes at Sandburg, science classes, related arts classes, math classes? So we asked our staff to come up with a mission statement, a vision for their department. And we'll go over these a little bit more in the video. But we asked them to do that, and then we asked the kids to kind of talk about what it means, for example, to be a reader and a writer coming out of Sandburg. And so I'm going to bring up right now Angelo, Alina, Yana, and Zoe. Come on up. We didn't practice with the podium, so we're just going to go to how we did it. But they're going to talk a little bit about what their experience has been in language arts. And I asked them to come because they have gone above and beyond. Along with about 78 of our other students, we've produced 50 or so children's books. We had an author come to Sandburg named Trudy Ludwig back in September. She talked about being a writer, what it's like to be an author, where she's inspired from. And then the kids, we gave them the opportunity to just create their own children's book that next Tuesday on the 21st, we're going to go read to Washington and MG students. These are 4 of our students who opted into creating that book. It's extra. It's like the 8th graders are currently in Mr. Kempton's class, also working on a literary essay, doing all the vocabulary work, all the sentence work, all the other stuff. But these guys, along with several others at Sandburg, also took a step to create a children's book. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Take it away and have fun.
Hello, I'm Melina.
I'm Angelo.
I'm Yana. And we created this book to share a message with younger students that they could be successful even when others have a negative impact towards them, and how much your words can affect others. And the book will be passed around right now.
Our book is titled The Tryouts. It is about a first grader named Felix who really loves soccer and is really good at it. But another kid named John started picking on him, making him not want to try out for the school team and even quit the whole sport. But eventually, one of Felix's classmates talked to him about it, and those positive words really helped. Felix decided to try out. He made the team and became one of the best players.
The theme of our book is how you choose to treat people and how it can affect them in a negative or positive way. It is our choice how we act towards each other. So make sure your actions always have a positive impact on others. While writing this book, we had to learn how to work together, and we also had to learn how to manage our time properly while doing our schoolwork, extra activities, and making sure the book was done on time. Something that the Tiger Code has taught us is how to take ownership of our learning and discovering new hobbies.
Writing this book was a great experience, and hopefully it shares a positive message with younger students.
We hope that everyone who reads it enjoys it.
Thank you for inviting us tonight. We are so excited to share this book with the younger students and all of the District 75 community.
Now I would like to introduce you to Zoe Kennedy, who is one of our 7th grade peers that would like to share her experience at Sandburg.
Good evening. My name is Zoe Kennedy and I'm in 7th grade. My story is about a girl named Felicia starting her first day of 1st grade. She's so excited and nervous to start a new school, and this is made worse by a boy named Rob who makes fun of her with his friend Tyrone. The bullying goes on for most of the day until Felicia speaks up about it bothering her and the teacher makes the boys apologize. At the end, the three of them work together on a group project and Felicia is happy that her day ended well. I think that my experience going to a new school in first grade is what inspired me to write this book. I also thought about other kids and their experiences on their first day of school and all the emotions with it, and decided to create a story that has all of that in it. I chose to write the story and more specifically about bullying because it's unfortunately something kids can experience at school. But in the story, the main character also has a solution to the bullying and doesn't let it continue to happen. The theme of my story is to treat others how you want to be treated. I want people to learn that it's not okay to bully no matter the situation and to be cautious of what you say or do to someone because it can hurt their feelings. The biggest takeaway from this book is to just be kind because you don't know what somebody is going through. Creating this book has helped me become a better writer because it has helped me with my imagination and creativity by coming up with characters and a plot. Being a good reader has helped me create this story because I'm good with punctuation and grammar. Reading a lot of books over time gives me inspiration to write stories focused on character development. The community of my classmates and teachers helped me in making this book by giving constructive criticism and sharing this book with others that believe in my theme. I take full responsibility for making this story and I have full control as the author. This book has also helped me discover my imagination and explore possible themes of the book. Effort was a really big thing in creating this story because creating this was optional and at times I felt like giving up, but I persisted and committed to finishing this book. Overall, creating this book has helped me live the code by working together with others to improve my writing, discovering new things I didn't know about myself, persisting and taking responsibility for my work.
Thank you. Can we have one more round of applause for them? This takes a lot of courage to do. Excellent job. Hi, everybody. I didn't get to formally introduce myself. My name is Ryan Wood. I'm the assistant principal at Carl Sandburg. This is my third year working with Mark Pilot, who is just the heartbeat of our school, heartbeat of our community. And I think that what Mark said was really evident of there's so much that's going on in our school and our community that we want to highlight, we want to spotlight, we want to celebrate on a daily basis. That a simple question that Dr. Cacciatore and Dr. Myers came to us is, what do you guys want to talk about? It was hard to answer. So I know there's a lot of lenses that we're looking to, but we're really going to put the lens on of a student lens. That's why we're talking about through the eye of a tiger. And this, if you want to change the next slide. So this video that we're going to showcase to you guys today is something that we want to, not only we're very proud to show you guys, but also we want to use this as a tool moving forward to showcase some of the great things that are going on in our school. We have 6 different students that are going to talk about their learning experiences in our core subject areas and some of the trials and tribulations and things that they've endured and help them persevere and become better leaders and better students. And then we have a little shout out from our band department as well. It was a lot of fun making this, and it's emotional to watch at times because you see these kids grow from 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. It's like, wow, they're becoming mature young adults in front of you. So I hope you guys get a chance to enjoy it, and thank you for your time. know that was a little long, but we really wanted to make sure we captured as much as we could about our amazing building. Thank you so much for your time watching that. And one of my favorite authors, Mr. Simon Simic, he is always one to say people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The why of our building, walk our hallways, you'll see it, you'll hear it, you'll feel it right away. Our teachers are there for the right reasons. We're all on the same team. We're all pushing our kids for the right reasons. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to grow every person to their needs. That SEL piece that we talked about in our video too, it is not just in our homeroom. Those are explicit lessons, but they're also embedded throughout our day. So when we talk about our core values being the code, community, ownership, discovery, and effort, we see this in our kids. They take community serious because they want to make sure we embrace our race, religion, ethnicity that we have in our building and outside of our building. We want to make sure we take ownership not only of our learning, but to own our percentage as a peer, as a mentor. We want to make sure that we're taking on and discovering new ways we can challenge ourselves. Like I said in the video, middle school is challenging. To do this, what you guys did today, that is extremely challenging. I could barely tie my shoes in middle school, let alone come and present in front of you guys. And I know we have a lot of families watching at home too. They got to see their kiddos, and all those kids on video took that risk, took that courage, and it's admirable to say the least. And then making sure we're putting in that effective effort and learning what we don't know about our kids, learning what we don't know about each other, and making sure we're all persevering at the same time. So without any further ado, I want to introduce to our last part, Xander and Jacob, who are going to come up and lead you through one of those SEL lessons that we do at the beginning of our school year that kind of set the tone, not kind of, it does set the tone for each and every single one of our homerooms as we go on through the school year. Xander, Jacob, come on.
Hi, I'm Xander, and I'm an 8th grader at Carl Sandburg Middle School.
And I am Jacob. I too am an 8th grader at Carl Sandburg Middle School. So first, we'll be talking about what the Tiger Code means. C stands for creating community, O stands for taking ownership, D stands for engaging in discovery, and E stands for putting forth effective effort.
Everyone at CSMF knows the code. For example, Jake and I showed every part of it by just preparing this presentation for you all today. We built community by working together to write a script and practice our parts. We took ownership by taking time out of our day to prepare and plan our presentation ahead of time. We engaged in discovery by trying something new and stepping out of our comfort zones, and we exhibited effort by putting it all together and presenting it today. So we're going to challenge you as a board member to think about what area of the code you're the best at. This isn't what you show the most often, we'll get to that later, but instead what trait you think you show easily or are the most confident in. Do you think you're strong at creating community and helping build relationships? Do you easily take ownership of your actions? Do you like to explore and discover new things? Or are you always effective in the effort that you put forth? We're going to give you a few seconds to think about which trait you're the best at and why now.
I think they're going to prompt you guys to think about that. I mean, we're going to kind of call you on.
How much time do we have?
Give you about 30 seconds right now. Do it.
Okay. So does everyone have in their head what they think?
You want to start with your Mr. Hitzke? We'll grab from this way.
Sure. I would go with discovery. I think as a board member, try to discover new ways to enhance education, ways to work with the students in all the buildings, work with the staff and the administration. There's two really important components in a school to me. Number one, being the teachers that are there, but then most important is the student, and discovering a way and working at a way to find the best way to educate you and prepare you for high school is really important to me.
Thank you for that. All right, Ms. Carl, which part of the code do you think that you are the best at exhibiting?
I think effort. I have a task. I like to put my all into it.
Thank you. Mr. Billitier, which area of the code do you think you show the best?
I also said effort. Whenever I do something, I want to put my best effort into it, whether it's discovering something new, being accountable for my behavior and my work, or working with the community. I just want to put my best effort in there for myself and for everybody else too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Rose, which area of the code do you think you're best at?
I'm so nervous. I would go with community. And the reason I would go with community is I view and personally feel that community is the foundation that everything else builds off of. If the community is strong and all components of the community are together and on the same page and sharing the same values and efforts, that we will be successful, that everyone in the community will be successful.
Thank you. Ms. Aguilar, which part of the code do you think is the best at?
I'm gonna echo Mr. Rose's and say community as well. I was taking some notes while the presentation was going on, and there was this theme that kept coming back up, and it was relationships. You've got to build relationships, and that is my strength, is building relationships.
Thank you. And Ms. Duran, which area do you think you're?
I'm gonna let you guess. What do you think? Let's see, you have
That sounds like an unprepared student.
20% chance of getting it right.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, can I just ownership?
No, it's a community. I have to get people involved. People that are here are in my classroom and they come here because they want to learn more about you. They want to learn about board members, about how the system works, and most definitely they're here for you guys. These are future educators that want to learn more. Like my colleague said here, to teach you the best way, to create relationships, to build on that. So I thank you guys for coming out today. I know it's very difficult to present in front of people, but definitely community. Like my colleague also said, it's building those relationships that makes a difference. And a lot of you said the same thing on the video. Thank you to my teacher. Thank you to my teacher. Thank you to my teacher. I'm here because of a teacher. So just the importance of what we do every day makes such a big difference, which connects to the book that you guys wrote, right? So it's just a connection of how you're building those relationships. And I thank you guys for coming here and challenging us to do better here. Thank you guys. Thank
And
you.
I think one other thing that we all take and are a part of is ownership, because we have ownership in your education. We have ownership in making sure the community has what they need to help you. So ownership kind of, in my opinion, encompasses everything.
Thank you.
That's well put.
Now we will talk about what part of the code you show most often. Rather than what part of the code you're best at, we will be talking about what part you show most in your personal life, your work life, with your family, or anything else. We'll give you a few seconds to think about that.
We'll start this way this time.
You're on the spot first.
I know. Put me into it.
All right, is everyone ready? Okay, so first, Mrs. Duran, what part of the code do you think you show most often?
I think I show most often the discovery one. I'm somebody who gets bored really fast. So I do have to find myself looking for new ways and opportunities to search into what I want to do next, what's coming up, and what's going to make me think outside the box. So definitely discovery. I think that's what I showed.
Thank you for that. Mrs. Aguilar, what part of the code do you think you are best
I'm
at?
gonna echo my colleague right here. Yes, discovery is it, right? It's the inquiry. It's the want to know more about what is happening around us, for sure.
So,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing. Mrs. Fingerhook, what part of the code do you think you are best at?
Well, I'm trying to understand the difference between best at and show most often, because I would think they're somewhat one and the same. Because generally you're going to display most often those qualities that you're best at. I would also say effort from earlier. I was trying to decide between effort and ownership. Since I didn't answer last time, I guess we'll call one and one the other. So I would say effort, just because I do think that I do try, sometimes taking on too many things, but I do try to take on and put forth my best effort for anything that I do take on for the board and in all other aspects of my life as well.
Thank you for that. So, and Mr. Rose, what part of the code do you think you show most often?
You know you're stressing me out, right? I again would go with community. And I base that on, I've spent my entire career in public service, working in the public sector. And even now being in school board, the other committees and, things that I'm involved in. Because I think it's important that if we're gonna look at community, that we have to do things and work to make community better. And you can't do that sitting on a couch watching TV. You can be out doing things and being involved, because that truly is how you make a difference and start becoming the leader, the role model, the mentor for the rest of the community to start to follow, so we can continue to build and make our community a better place.
That's great. Thank you for that. Mr. Billetier, what part of the code do you think you show most often?
This was a tough one, but I went with discovery. I always consider myself to be a lifelong learner. I realize that everything I've been able to do as an individual is because of the lessons I learned. So I am always constantly trying to seek out new information and new experiences. And maybe a little bit like Mrs. Fingerhut, sometimes I maybe need to say no to some discovery and rein it in a little bit. But I just think being a lifelong learner is the most important thing.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mrs. Carl, what part of the code do you think you show most often?
I think community. I'm a teacher too, and I like creating that sense of community in my class and being approachable to others. And I really think it's important to bring everyone together.
That's good. Thank you for that. Mr. Hitsky, what part of the code do you think you show most often?
I would say community. I've lived here for a very, very long time. I've been involved in a lot of different things, different school boards, for one thing. And I've seen how this community has grown from when I moved here in 1980 and how it continues to grow. And I think it's important to just see that that growth continues on. Very important.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so based off of the responses that you've given, clear that you as a board think that you guys are the best at community and effort, and that you show community and discovery the most often. So using everything that you've learned about the code so far, we're going to have you create your own commitment statements that you think that you as a board can commit to by winter break. So we're going to have you partner up with the member sitting next to you, and you can have a look at the example statements on the paper that Jake's going to pass out, and work together to write one for yourselves.
You're gonna stress Ray out. Well, we gave him a partner this time. Yeah.
Goodness.
You're making him do himself.
So yeah, we're gonna give you about 2 to 3 minutes with your partner.
Uh-oh.
Repeat the directions, please.
Repeat the idea of what we're doing.
Okay, so what you've learned about the code so far, and what you what areas of the code you think you display. We're gonna have you create a mission statement or a commitment statement of your own, and with your partner, and we're gonna be walking around. So if you need to, you can ask us any questions.
Thank you so much for coming around. Incredible. What a great theme.
Yes, coming up. Thank you.
So we're gonna give you another minute. So to finish up your statements.
Yeah. Our board and
What do you think? Do we need something else?
Yeah.
You did help with that.
I like
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Tiger Code.
Do we think we're ready to go on to the next spot? Yeah, there you go. All you have to do,
So,
think about time.
we're gonna have you all share your statements now that you came up with. Sorry, Mr. Rose, but we're gonna have to pull Mr. Billitier away. Could you please come up and write the statements as they're read off?
Right.
Make sure you're not very solid.
Eric, you wanna take them?
And it's shorter. Yeah. 4 words.
Marker for me, awesome, you guys are so prepared. Down here, okay.
Okay,
You can write all of it.
so we'll go around and ask. So this group here, what statement did you guys come up with?
So we said we will live the Tiger Code by empowering and supporting our board and community to become lifelong learners.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, he threw out some big words for Mr. Billis here,
I think I remember it all.
All right.
Okay. So, Mr. Billitcher, do you have the paper?
Do.
Okay, so,
All right, we talked about community together, and Mr. Rose and I said that we will live the Tiger Code to create community by engaging with community members to learn from each other and build cohesive relationships for future success.
ah,
Yeah, read that one.
Now you gotta write it again.
You mean, why don't you get the Spanish version if it's only 4 words?
Yes, I get.
No spelling test today.
Are we gonna
That's
keep
why
that
you type.
sheet, Mr. Patton, the board use?
Yeah.
So is it okay if we have the papers that they've written their
Yeah.
statements down, we just maybe collect those statements, so Mr. Bill here doesn't need to write everything out?
Yeah.
okay,
Can we fire all that?
Yeah.
Well, we'll let you share. Most people.
Yeah, and then we'll collect, so that we can share back with the board.
Yes, that'd be great.
okay. So, what your group here?
So we looked at discovery and said we will live the code by taking risks in our own learning as new board members and not be afraid to ask. And in Spanish, it's really short. Sin miedo al éxito.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll share, Mr. Billis, and we'll get those written down later on.
Okay. So,
Great, yeah. I'm gonna keep it for later, is that okay?
okay,
Okay.
yeah, okay. So, using these statements that you've come up with, They're all very great, but we're gonna put it up to you as a board to decide which one of these statements that you think that you can all commit to by winter break. So we'll have a Tiger Code by empowering and supporting our board and community to become lifelong learners, engaging with our community members to build cohesive relationships for future success, and
We will take risks in our learning as new board members and not be afraid to ask.
so we want you to take a few seconds to discuss amongst yourself which statement that you think you want to fully commit to together.
How about this, in the essence of time, why don't we let them think about that, and then they'll come back to us and let us know what that commitment is.
Yeah.
Okay? Is that okay with you guys? Is that okay? We'll come back to you later on?
Yeah. Okay.
That's cool.
So,
You wanna close it?
Right. But with our big conference coming up,
Yeah,
I
that's what we're
think
gonna
this
say.
learning one and asking questions and taking risks is a great one for us.
You guys like that one? Just let it know.
Right? Are we okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, gentlemen, we've already discussed this.
wow.
It just so happens that we're all going to a conference together here to do some discovery on our own. And so I think this one about taking risks to learn as new board members and even veteran board members is a great one that we can commit to.
Okay.
Love it.
That's great.
Where you'll get that to me, and what we'll do is we'll have that statement written up and we'll put it on the back of your nameplates.
Cool.
Very important. So, all in all, living the code can change your life. Whether it's through connecting with your community, taking ownership of your actions, trying and discovering new things, or putting effort into everything you do, living the Tiger Code opens up so many possibilities in your life. After winter break, you'll be sent a Google form as a checkup on how you've been living your mission statement. As a group, we'd like to thank you for your time here at this meeting.
Thank you. Part of that journey of empowering our students is, taking their creativity and riding with it. So thank you so much for your time today. One more round of applause to all of our volunteers. And on behalf of Mr. Pilot, who this is one of his final board meetings as principal of Carl Center Middle School, we want to say thank you so much for taking the time out to get a chance to know what it's like as we strengthen our stripes throughout the entire school year and moving forward. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I don't have a question, I have a comment. And personally, I can't tell you how impressed I was with what we saw and what we heard tonight.
Thank you.
They just came out last week with the report card. And statistical data is very important. I don't dispute that. But when you look at all these percentages and you look at all these numbers without really diving into it, what does all that mean? If we use this as the report card, and this, as far as I'm concerned, was the report card that we should be looking at. Because we're looking at firsthand what the results are of the efforts that you folks have put forth, that the teachers have put forth, and that the students have put forth to come here and show us what's going on at Carl Sandburg. And I gotta tell you, I'm very impressed. I'm very proud to be associated with you folks. Very, very good. Great job, you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have a question? Well, thank you for your time, and we look forward to listening about your journey and learning the code through discovery.
Look out for that Google form.
Enjoy the conference, and
May I take a minute?
Sure.
I think we have to honor really the years that you have dedicated yourself to
Thank
the
you.
school, to the kids, to the teachers. I mean, community, I was there a few months ago. Everybody says hi to you. And I think we need to honor that as community and board members because it takes a very humble person to be in front and lead so many people and have people following. So I think he definitely needs an applause. And don't go anywhere, stay within our community.
I plan that, so thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
You remind me up there, they will go whenever.
So. Mark.
We're ready to go.
They don't need to stay unless they want to.
That's what I offer. But they wanted to stay for the numbers.
Yeah.
It's got cool graphics. They are.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you to the parents as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This makes sense now. Hi guys.
Okay then. Next on the agenda then is the business office report.
If we could, we'll have Dave Zarumba come up next and we'll go over the health, life, safety report request that we have for the Illinois School Board Association. Safer, but my apologies. Thank you.
Hello, board, and welcome. I'm going to give a report on what I spoke about last August, in our summer review. I talked about a lightning strike that happened to Carl Sandburg. Working with Carrier, I have a quote that got put together to fix the heating and automation. We have had heat and we had air conditioning. We've just been doing it manually at this time. Carrier came back to me with a quote at $195,000 to get it done. They also informed me at that time that the system that we have in there is called the CCN system is going to be obsolete in a year or so. So I asked them to give me a price of the updated system. The updated system is going to cost us $227,000. Then I worked with the insurance company in T. The insurance company said because it's such an old system, they would prorate it at $165,000. They would pay us for it. Talking to T and talking to Kathy Johnson, we are asking you to approve health, life, safety money to be paid the additional $62,000 to get this project done. So it doesn't have to come out of the operations budget. So I'm asking you tonight if you could approve this request. I have worked with Carol, our architect, already. She wrote everything up. She got it to Dr. Myers. Dr. Myers is forwarding it on to ROE to get the project completed.
Just a quick recap, we had a lightning strike out in the field that knocked out this board.
Automation system, right, I apologize, yes.
So we're not asking for any new money, it's reallocating our current health, life, safety money, been designated. So we're just looking to move $62,000 over. In order to do that, we need board approval, and I need to log that in, so the state sees that the board said yes.
I think it makes sense to replace it.
Our system's 35 years old now, and being obsolete, we're not gonna be able to get parts in a few years.
Okay.
Any questions from anybody?
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Once we approve this, are we still going to then be applying for the grants through the state for that balance? Probably not minus the insurance money, but.
No, we already have the money from health, life, safety.
Okay.
It's in the 50-50 grant that you brought up to me about, where we paid half of whatever another project would be.
The 50-50 grants, Mrs. Fairhunter, the 50-50 grant is different. That's a new grant we're gonna be applying for. It is not just health, life, safety. Health, life, safety was allocated, about 8 years back, and we just have a remainder of money that we need to use.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. On the agenda tonight, we have the levy for adoption, and I'm here to answer any additional questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jake. Next, then, human resources.
Normally, I'm the fast one. For your review and consideration, I have 4 job descriptions. 2 are new. It would be the parent coordinator. This is a non-certified role, and this is a non-union role. We also have a daily substitute teacher. We've obviously had this role for a long time. We just did not have a job description to accompany it. And then 2 updated job descriptions. One is the lunch recess supervisor, and then the second is the floating substitute teacher. Questions? I will. Oh, go ahead.
Just for clarification, the floater sub would be probably like the first go-to, right? Because they're on every day.
Correct.
Whereas the other ones would be like, we're calling because the floater's already used and we still need some.
Correct. Yeah, the daily sub would maybe just be covering a morning or an afternoon. And would have a lot more flexibility. The floater is going to be the primary.
And the daily one would be here every day then?
No, the daily would be called on a daily basis to come in, a plug and play.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is the floaters just one that would float between buildings, or is it one for each?
So the way that this would work is it would depend on the credentials of the sub and the needs of the building, and we would be able to anticipate needs based upon anticipated absences, FMLA leaves, things like that.
You said the parent coordinator is a new role?
The non-certified parent coordinator is a new role.
So these are new roles as opposed to just new job descriptions?
No, these were roles that currently exist. These are just roles that either we found did not have a dedicated job description in the system or required an update to the current job. Like the recess and lunch supervisor, those have existed for quite some time, but with the changes in the expectations of the duties, it needed to be, refined.
Okay, so I was confused by the answer to the last question about that the non-certified parent coordinator is a new role or just a new job description?
It's a new job. Existing role. That role already exists. I am not asking for any new.
Okay.
This evening.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Services, community.
Thanks. So what we're requesting this evening is there's an intergovernmental agreement as we work with, so let me take a step back. So working closely with our partner feeder districts, Hawthorne, Fremont, et cetera, just all the collaboration we do and all the programming and working through servicing students collectively across the county. We've been doing some more sharing and development of programming. And so we have our program that supports students that require a lot of structure, typically students that may fall on the autism spectrum, and it is not a program that Fremont has. And then Fremont has a student who benefits greatly from that type of programming. So the ask today is to approve the intergovernmental agreement, which would then allow us to charge the tuition as well as the cost for the instructional assistant to Fremont so that their student can continue to benefit from the program that we have at District 75. Any questions for me about that?
So you're asking to extend the contract from, we've already had this agreement in place. We want to go another year.
Okay, thank you.
Hey. Next then is,
Yeah.
Hi,
hi. How are you?
well, how are you? It's hard to compete with the students, but we'll do our best, and our slides have pictures, so we'll see how we do, okay?
All right.
All right, so, each year, the state of Illinois provides school districts a rating about how we are doing in, many different indicators. And so that data was recently released October 30th of this school year. And so tonight, Jamie and I are gonna talk about those ratings and what that means for us as a system. There are currently 8 indicators that are used in order to give our district points, if you will. And there, you'll see 9, 10, and 11 are shaded out. And so the state of Illinois is letting us know that pretty soon those are going to come on the books. But right now, those are not indicators that are used to rate our programming. And so all of the 8 indicators that we currently have, 6 of them are considered academic indicators, and then 2 of them are considered school quality and student success indicators. The state organizes us in 3 buckets. Districts who are K-8 districts, K-12 districts, and 9-12 districts. And so as a K-8 system, we are only sorted and ranked amongst other districts that are also K-8. And so as we get further along, you'll see how that shakes out. They put us in order of our point allocations from 100 being the most points all the way down to the least amount of points. And just like we may or may not have experienced in school, if the highest grade in the class is a 73, 73 becomes the 100, and then it's a sliding scale then after that. So we get ranked top to bottom, and then they take the top 10% of those school districts and they give them an exemplary status. They take the bottom 5% of those school districts and they are comprehensive support, meaning they need a lot of guidance and intervention to help support their students in a variety of areas. And then everybody else in the middle of that bell curve is considered commendable. Once they do that allocation, then they go back and they look at our state assigned subgroups to make sure that all of our subgroups individually are also in that commendable range. Or if one of those subgroups were to fall below that commendable range that is allocated differently every year, right? Because the bar changes as you go, then that's how you would get a targeted assistance rating. So far, so good? All right, great. So the first school we're going to talk about tonight is Carl Sandburg. This is a new visual that the state has produced. Prior to this year, it was just a chart with numbers and words. And so for the first time, we have this cute little schoolhouse happening. And you can see overall, we had a commendable score of 64.06 out of a possible 100 points. And then the colored boxes underneath are those same 8 indicator areas and how many points we got in comparison to the points possible for that particular bucket. So for our ELA proficiency, we got all 7.5 points out of 7.5. Go literacy, PD! It's happening. And then you can see how it shook out with all the other areas. It's important to note that when we're looking at our growth and our proficiency, for growth to count, you need 2 grade levels. And so we're actually looking at our 5th grade scores and how they grew into 6th to get that proficiency growth versus the one-shot moment of time of straight proficiency. So for proficiency, that one moment, we look at 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then for growth, you can see that crossover between mechanics growth and Carl Sandburg.
you're going to see that pattern again as we go from school to school and how all of our data is really commingled across each building. If you go to the next slide, this is the first time we've actually seen this particular report. It's never been accessible to us. And so this is actually a nice visual to show where our middle school falls in line overall. As I mentioned, you know, here's that top 10% of exemplary. Here's this bottom 5% of comprehensive support. And then that bell curve in the middle where the majority of us fall is commendable. And then where we fall specifically as a middle school. Okay, so then it's the same visual aid for Mechanics Grove. And you can see how, again, we have the proficiency of 3rd, 4th, and 5th, those isolated moments in time for our English language arts scores from the IAR and the math assessments. And then that growth component, again, those 6th graders come back to us in Mechanics Grove so that we can see that growth component for how our 5th graders did the following year as 6th graders. So again, that overlap and another high woo woo. We got all 7.5 points for ELA. Go literacy PD. And then the next slide, you can see that same bell curve again, where we're falling right there in that commendable range. Okay, questions so far? Still with me? Excellent. Okay, here we go. Washington. Jamie, you want to take over?
So Washington is a little bit more unique in terms of, as we know, for the standardized assessments that students take, those start in 3rd grade. Washington is a K2 building. So as far as the academic data that's reported and the overall index score for Washington, we're actually looking at data from our students at Mechanics Grove. So we're looking at our 3rd grade proficiency level, and then our growth from the grade 3 to grade 4 students. So how do they grow by the time they got to grade 4? So again, for last year's school report card, we're looking at last year's students that were 4th graders when we're talking about Washington, and how did they grow from 3rd to 4th grade, and then also the 3rd grade data. So that's very unique. That's one of the things with us having like the K2 and the 3-5, the grade level centers. Attendance is being reported as well under the chronic absenteeism component of the overall index. And as we know, kindergarten is non-compulsory. It's not a required, kindergarten's not required. So that data does not, is not included or factored in the overall attendance, but our 1st and 2nd grade attendance data is included. So those are the components and those aspects related to Washington. And as you can see, whereas in the other schools, we saw that we were in the commendable range, we do have something called targeted here. And what that means is that we have a what they call a subgroup. We would prefer to call it a grouping within our school that fell below, when we look at the next chart, when we look at kind of like that bell curve, fell below and fell into the targeted range. So here we go. This is how we fall as a school. Washington is right in that commendable range. However, subgroups can include things like English learners, students with disabilities, children with disabilities, and just different subgroup areas. Specifically in the subgroup area, the disability subgroup area is where we fell in the range that put us in that targeted. So if we go,
I think the trickiest part is that every year the state raises that cut score threshold. And so even as we continue to grow, there's multiple moving numbers here that by the year of 2032, every grouping of students and every overall school district is expected to be at 90% or get 90 out of 100 points. And so every year they move the bar higher and higher. And so as we continue to make growth, which we are making growth, it's just, we keep getting just shy of that increasing moving forward to the point where no one's going to pass at some point. And so that's what we have to keep focusing on, is just like the presentations we just saw, right? Where we know what we're doing is academically sound for our students, And we need to just keep paying attention to all of our groupings. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. And then the next couple
So,
slides.
can I just ask you a question? So if they're proposing to move this up, and I agree with what you're saying, eventually no one's gonna make it. And in between this spectrum of time, I mean, we just went through this with the COVID pandemic, and there's no accounting for anything like that to occur again. And that means that they're putting unrealistic goals in place that school, no matter what you're doing, no matter what your efforts are, you're not gonna be able to make.
It's very challenging. And that is one thing, in terms of the attendance, that is one thing that I personally have struggled with this, because as the person accountable for like our nursing and our support of student health and those pieces in the district, I find some of this to be a little bit challenging and contradictory in the sense that like, we want kids to stay home if they're sick and if they're exhibiting symptoms that could be COVID and whatnot, or something really contagious. And so I agree. It's very challenging. Another piece that I intended to point out that I did not was that when we look at those previous placards or like those schoolhouses for all the buildings, one thing, there's a 5 essentials survey, for example, that in like the 3rd grade and up, students can participate in that, and that's factored into like one of the tiles. For the youngest building being a K2 building, that's completely extracted because we don't have the little ones do that. And so everything is more heavily weighted on attendance and that academic data.
Right.
So it's just like, I don't want to say it's skewed or anything like that, but it's different, right? So what it's looking at is very different. So, but yes, you bring up very good points.
So this weekend, is the state conference. And I know it's probably too late this year for us because they have these resolution committee and resolution. This might be something that we want to consider submitting as a resolution to at least get some discussion and thought processes going across the state on how we're going to deal with it.
It's a great idea because we are one of many districts who were, well, everyone in the country or the world really impacted by COVID.
Right.
And we do want our children to stay healthy and safe. And so if they're sick, we are telling them to stay home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There needs to be some more thought on that.
So the 2 areas for us to kind of commit to our work on, and we'll talk about the timeline and the support we're getting from the state a little bit later, but the 2 areas are attendance and academics. So I'm going to talk through attendance first. So what we, last year we had an opportunity as a leadership team to look at our attendance procedures and to kind of tighten those up or make them more consistent across the buildings as far as when we send letters home for attendance needs, when we make phone calls, and just what does that look like? And working with our regional office of education last year, we learned of a desire, which I totally holistically agree with, which is what's best for kids, to limit when you drop students from enrollment and to really just try to work with the families to get the students into school. So we factored all that in, and then we kind of retooled and enhanced our district attendance procedures. That was our action step last year. What we want to do now moving forward, now that in light of this new information, is that we would like to really look deeply at that, enhance it, make it, I don't want to say more aggressive, but more intensify it a bit and do more with it. So for example, parent contact right now, that might be in isolation, you know, the attendance secretary or the parent coordinator, but how can we get more involved? We have been going to a lot of professional development just in the last couple of weeks about being a targeted school and about how to address some of these needs. And one really cool idea we heard about was have postcards ready that if a student misses 2 or 3 consecutive days and it's unknown if they're sick or whatnot, to send a postcard home signed by the teacher saying, we really miss you and your class misses you, even having the other kids sign the postcard. So that's just one tidbit of like many different ideas that we have. And so, and things that we've learned about along the way to enhance how we address and communicate with our families around attendance. Attendance Works is a great resource that historically we've used in both the districts that I've been with, and those resources and literature come in multiple languages, and it really is very informational for families to understand the impact of attendance, and just has a lot of great literature that we want to continue to share and share more regularly with all our families.
as a targeted school, do we get more money to provide, like these type of things or ideas and put this in place?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we kind of have that addressed in the 2 slides next, but we will, as a targeted school, we're going to be writing like this grant, and we'll go through that timeline. And as a result of the grant, there's certain vendors that the state approves, so it's not everything, but they can address the academics and they can help us address the attendance as well. And there's not known at this moment in time how much of that funding we'll receive, but we will know that soon, like in December, as we submit the plan. So, great question. In addition, we would like to work more in terms of working with our parent coordinator and school-wide parent outreach, looking at maybe having some, like a parent education evening or a Zoom login for our families that are impacted more significantly with attendance, and utilizing that partnership accordingly. Reviewing and updating our coding of attendance in our system, our Power School system, and just how we're reporting that to the state to ensure there isn't something that could be done in a more efficient manner or that just really represents our attendance in a better way. So we want to explore that and exhaust that. We actually explored our attendance codes last year, but we want to do that again and make sure that we are coding to the best of our ability to capture and maximize when a student is attending or participating in some way. And then next, creating an attendance committee to review the data and monitor the implementation of the strategies that we have in place and the messaging that we are sending out. So we have consistent messaging, and then we're working closely with families on just the importance of being in school versus, because sometimes there might be a trip and things like that. And when the kids are younger, we think it's okay to miss school, but just working with the families on that. So that is our goal. And we want to do that through the attendance committee. And just like we'll talk about in the next slide, not all of this is isolated to Washington. This is really a district. We want this to be a district level and continued initiative, and we want to work together because there are, families that touch across all of our schools. Did you have a question?
Related to the way that you code them. So if they're absent, they're still counted. I mean, if they're absent because they are sick, they're coded as absent regardless, right? Like it's not giving any different type of code because they're sick.
Well, it would be excused or unexcused, right?
But overall, it counts in their overall absences. Yes.
Whether they're excused or
Yes,
unexcused.
it'll be excused or unexcused. But like, for example, looking at one of the things that we were discussing is if we have a student going to therapy, so it's not necessarily part of their individualized education plan for special education, but the parents have elected that every Thursday, the student is going to leave at 2 p.m. So like right now, they're gone during that period. So they're absent a slice of their day. In my surveying of districts over the last 2 weeks, 50-50, some of the districts might have a student partially enrolled. And so then that's not actually an absence, and they're a 4.5 day a week attendee. So what would that mean for us? It's a very small amount of students, but again, in my research in the short period of time, half the districts do something creative like that. So that's something I want to explore for us. It just as an example. Okay.
Can I just,
Yes.
You mentioned that this is going to be looked at implementation across the district. I think that's a great idea that we should be doing it, because even though those issues may not be prevalent right now in other places, that's what we're doing is we make sure we're consistent and we're in front of it so that they don't slide back. So I agree that I think there should be a district implementation of a program or process.
Absolutely.
The more proactive we can be, the better.
Yeah.
My next question would be, what's the time frame where they want to see the improvement? And if we don't show improvement, what would happen?
That's a great question.
You're doing a great job of setting us up for future.
Can I do the
class.
next slide on academics and then share that? Okay. Okay. No, we're very close. We're very close. One more slide in the middle. So for the academic components, we discussed, when you saw the little squares we made on the side, we discussed what data sets academically are being reported for Washington. So we're all very aware that this is like a district-wide partnership, right? And so one thing that we're doing is we know we've had an amazing and excellent emphasis on literacy in our district over these last few years, and we've seen it be very impactful for our students. And our staff is very empowered, and we have a lot of consistency. And our next step, our next plan, even prior to receiving this information, was that our next step for next year is to really focus and emphasize the math instruction. So in fact, even a really cool thing that's happening as soon as next week is Mrs. Unger will have a renowned math consultant coming in and visiting all of our schools with her on, it's Monday, right? On Monday, to kind of see what does our math look like and our math instruction and what resources are we using, and to really just give us an internal look from an outside person on what we can do to enhance and improve that area. At Washington specifically, we have after-school programming that's funded through the ESSER funding, and that's for English language arts and math. So we will be looking at our groupings, making sure that the students that are in our identified grouping, as well as other students as well, that they're able to have access to and receive that after-school programming. And then also reviewing our master schedule allocation of English language arts, Spanish language arts, and math. So when we look at our overall schedule, just feedback we've had along the way is like, wow, we spend a lot of time on the literacy. So really just looking at what is the most effective and to set our students up for the most success. So how do we need to be allocating those minutes?
And that came up during our negotiations when we were talking about instructional minutes. And when we, Christy, I know you were part of that. I'm looking at you here, but really I should look at you here. You were part of that conversation in terms of making sure that even the teachers mentioned that we needed that instructional time to provide opportunity for both reading, writing in Spanish and English, and then that dedicated math time as part of our day.
And so when we look at Mechanics Grove, again, because we're focusing.
Were you gonna say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Mechanics Grove has those same two data set points as far as the after-school programming, the review of the master schedule allocations, and then new this year at Mechanics Grove is a dedicated full-time math interventionist. So that is in its startup and it's going really great. And so then we're really excited for that to enhance as well as we go through this process and this journey. Chrissy, did you have anything else about that before I go into the timeline?
No, go ahead. It's fine.
Oh, okay. So here's the timeline. So this, Marcella, is kind of like alluding to what you were asking about. So during this school year, we will be working between now and December to have a draft of our school improvement plan, working with a consultant. We've already been assigned a consultant who's been really receptive and communicative already. We have had the opportunity to participate with some other Lake County schools in some professional development around the targeted area just in these last 2 weeks, and around action steps and understanding our data and making best practice decisions. Then after we have our school improvement plan received by the state, and once it is accepted, we will be receiving grant funds. We'll apply for the Illinois Empower Grant. That is where we said that the amount is unknown at this point. But then there is a limited amount of vendors that can help with, for example, like literacy initiatives or research-based curricular resources, things like that, things that we can typically utilize our grants for already, but there's very specific areas that we can allocate those funds, attendance intervention, so things like that. So there's going to be some areas. Those will be for Washington School, though. From our understanding, it'll be specific to Washington School because that is where that targeted grouping falls, which is a little tricky, right? Because we're saying we're basing it off 3rd and 4th grade data, and then the intervention will be at Washington. But we're going to work together and we're going to come up with the best plan possible. We have an amazing group of administrators that is fully collaborative. We have Miss Samantha, Miss Ihas, who are our data gurus. And so we're really just looking at where we want to put our energies and our resources as we plan.
And we're also, Mrs. Drake and Ms. Burgess are involved as well, because we really want to make sure the principals, we're all collaborating together.
Of course, yeah. So then that was this year. And so to answer your question to Marcella, so we will have this distinction of the targeted for this school year plus 3 more. So no matter how much we improve next year, even if every kid showed up every day from here for the rest of the year, we would still maintain that targeted rating until the end of FY27. So for the next 3 school years after this one. So that's just a known commodity. Other subgrouping, such as like our EL subgroup or wherever we have 20 or more students of the subgroup areas, could also end up are also like separately in a separate lane being looked at for all the data points. And then the target keeps moving every year. because as we change the target every year. So, and then each year, what we'll do is we'll review the SIP plan. So one thing we'll do is we'll have a school improvement plan team. And so that typically, from the literature we've received so far, involves teachers, paraprofessionals, related service providers, special teachers, you name it, the majority of school staff, stakeholders on that team. So that team will be part of our school improvement plan process, and then each fall of these next 3 school years, we would be reviewing our SIP plan and our data from the previous year. We would be working closely with our consultant to ensure that we are on target, and then we'll be submitting progress reviews throughout. So you can see kind of just there are 4 times throughout the year that we'll be submitting reports and working together. And that will happen each year for the coming years. Any questions about that timeline? Okay.
So the question I have, I don't know if maybe I missed it, but what happens because the score keeps going up and the different population ends up becoming targeted? Is that a new reset on the time, or is that bring a different classification for the building?
So what we know the rules are today is that they would reset the clock for the new subgroup.
4 years.
So let's say next year we get targeted in a different grouping of students, then they would extend our targeted status to the following chunk of time. Now, who knows, right? Maybe in like 5 hours, they're going to change the rule. We'll see what happens.
But it's not like if you have double targeted from what we're aware of right now and everything that we've been reading. If you have, that's a good point, Dr. Myers, because if we have one targeted group and then suddenly we have another targeted group, doesn't mean that, like, from what we can tell right now, it's not like those 2 targeted groups, because we have 2 now, would like lower us to a lower status, not that we're aware of.
And even if by some reason our students right now, our staff work really hard and we're able to get above that considered targeted range, we're still going to be labeled as targeted. But I think that's critical for you, the board member, to know.
Yeah.
Yes, the idea is that we come out of targeted status through all of our interventions and our focus to address these areas. And then the state is looking for us to maintain that growth. So that's why it's not a 1-year label. They want to see if you can maintain that progression of moving forward. Best intention, right? Mr. Pilot, did you have a question?
Does the funding continue all 4 years, even if you come out of that, even if your scores are showing that you're meeting the growth?
It's my understanding.
Yes. So the Illinois Empower Grant is only available to schools who are in targeted status. So this is the one might say that the intervention from the grant is what's allowing us to grow and be successful. And so we would have access to that for the length of the SIP plan.
Thanks. I don't want to keep belaboring a point, but I think the other thing for us to keep in mind, what you heard was the score are going to keep rising, which means more schools will end up having more students in targeted designation. There's only so much money in Illinois Power Grant. So whatever you're getting this year, because there's more schools to be involved, they're going to have to spread that money out amongst more schools unless they put more money into the pot. So as we look through this, yes, we should still keep getting money, but it'll probably be, we have to anticipate decreasing every year.
Maybe they'll change the bar.
Maybe they'll change the bar. Maybe they'll increase that too.
Yes. Maybe they'll address their conflicting attendance reports.
Maybe.
Can I ask a question? Is this something that, because I know that our district is somewhat unique. We're not the only one, but we are fairly unique in that we have the grade level centers that we have in our schools. If we were to have K through 6 or K through 5 at our area, would our scores be the same, or is it because we have all of the K through 2 at one? I mean, I'm just wondering if this is to some degree, at least a talking point to be used when and if this becomes an issue of why are we a targeted school and what do we do to get out of that? In it, because I'm just wondering what impact that has, or am I off base and it has no impact?
Well, it's a great question because I asked one of the consultants the same question a couple weeks ago, just like what would that be or how would that be different? And so really the students would be like, you'd be moving students to different sites, right? And so the populated data would be similar, but we'd be looking at more grade levels in one building, right? Because they were all K-5 buildings, for example. We'd be looking at multiple grade levels for growth and multiple grade levels for proficiency. So it's really hard to say. When we were talking to the consultant, she said she's like, I don't think it would make a difference for you, but it's really hard to say without analyzing the data that way, but that's a great question.
Well, only because it said that, like, if you're only looking at I mean, if Washington is really only being rated on these attendance for grade 1 and 2, but not K, and if they're only really looking at the academics starting basically the 3rd and 4th grade, so we're using MG scores, talking about standardized test scores for Washington, so we're not even looking, maybe they came from Washington, but it seems like it's a very narrow focus that they're looking at, and you know, are we ever going to get out of targeted? That I mean, that's the concern that I have. I'm not suggesting big changes. I'm just trying to, think about it. But
back and that very slide 2, where we show the specific indicators that we're being rated on each year. It will be interesting to see how those ones that are in the queue will impact us, because one of those was P2, which is our pre-K through 2nd grade. So having that come on the books may be advantageous for Washington to help support them and give them another set of data to look at. And the fine arts is also going to come on the books, which is great for us because we offer fine arts to all of our students. And so that's an area that we'll be able to show that we are offering more exploratory experiences to even our youngest learners, that there are some schools across the state who don't have that opportunity. So yes and no, Christy. I'm afraid it's a little muddy at the moment.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And they're gonna say, when are they coming in? So 2020.
One was 24, 25, and I think the other 2 were 25, 26. We'd have to check, but yeah.
I don't remember the specific year. We can get back to it.
No, that's okay. I was just wondering how long it was gonna take, but
yeah. Any other questions or comments?
If you go back to the slide that had the math interventionalist on there, I just have a quick question on that. I don't know if I can get that.
I can go back to, it's one of the very last ones. The third to the last.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that one. The math interventionist at MG?
Yeah, I forgot my question, but I think it was related to, the intervention, is coming from what, and are they pulling out during Spanish, English time, and how does that work? I'm just wondering.
For when the math interventionist currently is working with students?
Mostly I'm worried about the English language learners and if they're being pulled out and providing the intervention in either English or Spanish, and if it's taking away time from their English language arts or Spanish language.
So currently it's occurring during math instruction as an additional support during math instruction in English.
The intervention is provided in English.
Correct.
But not during English class. It's
No,
coming out during
math
math class.
Yeah.
And the interventionist has her English learner certificate to support English learners as well. So that's also a benefit.
And we're using our assessment scores and working with the grade level teams during our data dig meetings to decide which students would most benefit from that intervention period. So our math star scores and then classroom assessment data. Any other question? All right, thank you guys. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start on the other two topics this evening, the one thing I do want to take is a moment. November 15th, tomorrow, is National School Board Member Recognition Day. And I think it's one of the things that we do need to take time to say thanks. As you outlined today, with the different qualities that you have with effort and community, you're in a position that is elected. Your compensation is being able to be with us once to twice a month and get to engage with our students, and be the leaders for setting the stage for where we're going to go as a school organization and be the voice of our community. And without you being able to help guide and lead us through school board policy, we wouldn't be able to do the work we're doing from an administrative standpoint, to our teachers, to our paraprofessionals, all the way to everybody who's supporting our students out on the playgrounds. Since you've been together as a group in the last few years, all I can do is speak volumes with how I've heard about the cohesiveness within our board and how you freed up our staff to be able to have hard conversations with one another, to really challenge one another, and to take risks. And those risks are paying benefits. And you're seeing that, and you got to see that firsthand tonight. And I really hope you take the time to reflect on the impact that you've had on our school and our community. And as a very small token of appreciation for the work that you do for us and our community, we did get you some gifts that we do want you to have on behalf, and to make sure to say, wear them with pride, because it's District 75. So thank you for your service, and look forward to another great 2 years.
Thank you.
So with that, we get the opportunity now to start talking about the Triple I Conference, which is coming up this week. The first order of business for this board this evening is to go through and share a couple of the panel sessions that you plan on attending during the conference. And it's with the caveat that we know, for the first time, if you're going there, sometimes those panel sessions aren't what they seem to be in the description. And knowing that it's okay to go to a different one. Our goal, really, because we have admin going, and also with you attending, is we're trying to learn from other school districts. We're modeling what we are asking of our students and our staff. Let's learn from somebody else, and then bring that information back to the December meeting. And we're going to share that. And there's maybe something there that we can learn from, and maybe we look at implementing. And that's the direction we're looking. So with that, what I was thinking maybe we could do, let's see. Carl Sandberg started with Al, Michelle. Yeah, we're going back to Al.
Thanks me, yeah.
So we're going to start with Al. What I was going to ask, if Al, just go through your Friday, Saturday, if you're doing something Sunday, a couple of things that interested you, and we'll just go right around the table.
I've got nothing on Friday.
Okay.
So, Saturday, other than start out with the general session. The 10:30 to 11:30, in transition, legal requirements for trans students. I think it's maybe something that we're not necessarily faced with right now, but to see how other school districts have handled it and what there is legally, just to be prepared to think about it. Then in the 1:30 to 2:30 range, I have an or and an or. First is school board self-evaluation, working together to better ourselves. I'll make a decision probably that day. That's probably number one. Or advancing equity through school-based mental health, which would be health clinics. which might be something else, that we need to be considering. I think sometimes we put mental health and equity on the back burner and, can be concerned about that. And then if I do make it to the 3 to 4 range after wandering around, it's, probably going to be, you can't make this stuff up. It's a legal review of things that have gone on legally through the past year. And I believe one of our old cohorts is one of the presenters there, Lynn Himes.
Yep.
Okay, Friday, I was looking at setting up your next superintendent for success in the afternoon. Saturday, and this is in addition to the general sessions, but Saturday, the executive search process in the morning, effective meetings, productive boards in the afternoon, and then community engagement techniques and tactics for school boards. Yeah, and that's it.
Thank you. Eric?
For me, I've got nothing on Friday. On Saturday, after the general session, I'm gonna be going to monitoring district performance through policy. For the 1:30 to 2:30, I've got like 5 highlighted here that I'm interested in, but I think it's gonna be between superintendent employment contracts, since that's something that we've got coming up, and then 5 strategies to connect and reach your board's maximum impact. And then for the 3 to 4, let's see, relationship centered BOE leadership, passion, and purpose.
Okay. So I have all 3 of the general sessions. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Friday, I know that we talked about this and done it, but I have the art of school boarding. I just really enjoy the presenter. And each time I go, there's new things that I pick up, so I'm thinking I might go with that again. And then, what your superintendent wants to tell you but can't. And it talks about, in the presentation, based on discussions for effective relations and what that means in terms of making a difference in the success of the board on how we do things. And then Saturday is, amplifying student voice where they see it at the table. It's a presentation primarily from Leiden Township School District, where they have a program in place that gives the students more of a voice and engagement with the board and what they're doing in terms of exchanging information, students, what they're looking for in the board, explaining what we're doing and why, and then they can take it back. And then school board self-evaluation, which equates to working together better. It's a board evaluation, to develop a commitment to continuing evaluating and improving the work that provides quality leadership for the district. And what struck me about it is some of the presenters are from Lake Zurich, District 95, so I thought that would be interesting to see what they're doing and the proximity of them to us. And then community engagement techniques and tactics for school boards. And that's, that's what Emily and I have been working on and trying to get something in place that we see as being tangible. And this looks at the crucial role of community engagement and communication strategies for board members. And that's it.
Okay. Christy, you wanna go?
Sure. So first of all, I wanted to if anyone else did not read the emails and isn't aware, the app is a really helpful tool to use. So you can download the app that has all the options. You can set up your own agenda. So that's what I'm operating from to tell you what my agenda is, because I was able to go through and add and subtract things that looked good. So Friday, I will be attending the job of the board president on Friday. So I am attending that. I don't know if anyone else is attending any of the other sessions that had to be pre-registered for. So, and then Saturday, I am the delegate, so that'll take up most of my morning. In the afternoon, I had a lot of the same ones that I also have like 5 scheduled, and we'll see kind of where I end up going in and out of. I agree with Ray, the effective meetings, productive boards, and school board self-evaluation. I also saw this superintendent employment contracts, but I thought some of the other ones might be better since we've got other committees working on that. And then the navigating board policy management, that also looked intriguing. As far as the afternoon, I always enjoy the legal reviews. However, since most of those handouts end up going online later, it doesn't mean that I have to attend that. So we'll see. One that I thought was interesting was tackling divisive issues while moving your district forward. We have been very fortunate that we have not really had a lot of that like some other districts have had, but it doesn't help to be prepared. On Sunday, there's always some good follow-up, in the morning, and they're usually a lot smaller because a lot of people don't go. So they're a little smaller and a little more intimate, places, and they're usually a lot of discussion and roundtable talking. So there's board conflicts, legally stumped, and then or board president's roundtable. So we'll kind of see how that works around. So just wanted to make sure that people were aware there are some 8:30 sessions on Sunday morning too, in case you weren't aware.
Thank you. Sure.
Okay. So Friday I have the general session, and then Saturday, as I'm going through, in the morning, I have connecting students, community education, and manufacturing. Effective meetings, productive boards as well, navigating to resilience, and how to build an employee-centered district. And then for Sunday, it was board member parent hat. Yeah.
I've attended that twice before. It's usually a good one, and that's a round table where everybody kind of talks and shares a bunch of things. So that's usually helpful too.
Georgie, what was the third one you said for Saturday after effective meetings?
I have navigating resilience.
There you go.
Yeah. And hopefully I can make it to the how to build an employee-centered district.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so for Friday, you ready?
You're ready.
So for Friday, I was thinking of going to one that says what leaders should know about newcomer students. That's started at 10:30. Then another one at 2:00. That's a Latino college going on completion. What leaders should know. And then the general session. And for Saturday, it was very hard to decide, just like Eric said. So I'm not sure on these for sure, but I wanted to do the Illinois literacy plan from 10:30 to 10:30 to 11:30. The school board self-evaluation, working together better, which I think Ray had also mentioned, right, Ray? And then one that I don't think anybody mentioned, which is facing implicit bias and microaggressions head on. Those are a few of the ones that I wanted because it was just overlapping.
It's a good idea to have a bunch, because like Dr. Meyer said, sometimes they're not as good as you think they are.
Exactly.
A lot of the rooms are pretty small too, and by the
You
time
have
you
to
make it
sit.
to one, sometimes there's nowhere to sit, so
Right, yeah.
go to the next one on your list or stand, so.
But the good thing is, I think we do have a good variety, and you guys can always come back and share.
Yeah, just eyeballing it real quick, then board evaluation, community engagement, and self-evaluation are the pretty common amongst all 7 of you right now. So that's one where you know if you have other options, and you just communicate and maybe 1 or 2 of you go. But you guys can pick that. But yeah, it is good selection of picking. Good work. Let's see. I can share with you for me. So I put down the Career Connect Ed Learning. It has the CTE part for Friday. Also starting on Friday afternoon at the Jazz Ensemble will perform at Sheridan, I do believe, at noon. And then we have things that are in your bags for that for attending the conference. That we all reminder if you're able to attend. It's always fun. Saturday, I put down using podcasts to communicate. It's at 10:30. I did put down also success in an era of administrator exodus. So looking at a broader picture for just all the movement we have, I think we're experiencing that now with teachers. We already see that challenging to fill roles. So we need to prepare also on the administrative side. And then the other one I put was ransomware, cybersecurity prevention and response. Going through. It's Saturday as well. Okay. Very good. Thank you for sharing. I'm looking forward to learn more and we get back in December. The last topic we have, Christy, I'm handing the floor over to you. It's for the group to go over the resolutions that were posed from the School Board Association and see how you need to be able to give Christy feedback and how you'd like her to vote on your behalf.
And I guess I will just say at this point, do we need to have more discussion? Has anybody changed their mind from last 2 times that we've talked about it? I think we had all pretty much agreed we'll follow the resolution committee's recommendations. And unless anyone has any other changes, I'm inclined to just do that.
Yeah,
Since I can't see verbally respond. Thanks.
I'll take that. Christy, we agree with what they're agreeing to.
All right, sounds good. Check. Yeah.
All right.
I guess I should say though, before we move on, all signs are pointing that I'll be able to go. And in fact, I'm leaving tomorrow morning because I'm supposed to teach down there tomorrow and Thursday afternoon. Unless something changes, I still should be able to be there. I will be bringing a test along with me to do my 3rd test this week, just to make sure that no one else in my family has affected me. So far, we've isolated it to one member of our family in his own bedroom. So I should be able to be there, but I guess we should discuss what happens if not. Do we nominate another delegate? Do we have to call somebody? I don't even know what to do. I'm hoping we don't need to find out.
Wow. I don't know either. I imagine we'd have to nominate another person to be able to take your place. But we can't even do
And I imagine we'd have to communicate that somehow because it's all pre-registered and it's a whole thing and it's not just like you show up and sit down. So now in the grand scheme of things, not every district shows up, not every district votes. I don't know that any of these topics are so divisive on our behalf that, if we weren't able to have a person there, I don't know that that changes anyone's life this year. I know we would prefer it and we like to, and I would love to be there and I hope to be. So I will let everybody know if something happens, but I plan to be and we should be all good. But just keeping, I guess, that's the only thought that I had.
So maybe as a backup, can we just, because we can't take an official motion to nominate somebody else to be up. Maybe we can at least say here, we did a strong poll and we said, this board member will be your backup and if something should happen, they can at least try to get into the assembly. And if they don't let us in, okay.
Okay.
I think we have to email them and let them know because they can't attend. It has to be on their badge and they check the badge to get in.
So we're trying to do the best we can with it. So we'll at least try to have a backup right now.
Well, I guess the first question is, because here's the thing, any delegate, we all just went through all the things you want to do at 10:30. It's going to take you away from all the 10:30 things too. So perhaps if it's going to be trouble and, you know, just, I guess, putting that out there, I will do everything within my power to be there. I have backup plans for everybody else. And so the only reason I wouldn't be there is if I got sick. And as of right now, knock on wood, day 4, I have no symptoms and I've tested negative twice. So I think we're good, but just thought it was prudent to at least discuss it. But does anyone have a problem with, if especially if we may not be able to formally nominate somebody or change all of that? Is anybody really bothered if somehow we don't have a delegate this year that goes?
I don't know that with what is on here, I mean, compared to the other years, this is really kind of.
Yeah.
Mundane.
And none of them are ours. So it's not as though we are going to be having our delegates stand up and give a speech to the room about our resolution or something. So, you know.
I don't know that it matters with this, if they have anybody there or not.
I don't see anything earth shattering.
Yeah, if we do want someone, I'm happy to be a backup though. So
Okay.
just there. Yeah.
I would do too.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I thought I would just at least ask. I hope that I'll be able, again, my plan is that I'll get on the road tomorrow morning and not look back and come back till Sunday. So we should be okay. But
Well, what does everybody think? Because it's gonna take some work to try and find out.
I
what
think
we
if you
need to
can make
do
it,
and
then
how
we
we
just
do it.
don't worry about it.
I agree with Al.
Yes. So we'll just let it be.
Yeah.
I
If you
mean,
can't make it, we won't worry about it.
Emergencies happen and.
Yeah.
okay. I just at least wanted to have the discussion. So I don't anticipate it'll be a problem, but.
Okay, then there's one more thing there, and we've gotta worry about.
Yep.
Okay, then. Next, then, committee update. We finished superintendent policy, right? Yep. The committee updates, board policies.
So first, before we start with today's board policy piece, I just wanted to throw out there, because Press 113 is in the works, and that will be on the discussion, I think, in December. Now, Dr. Myers, I know I was thinking about this after our meeting. You had said that we should plan not to do our policy piece in December because of press, but don't we usually do a first reading and a second reading? So
yes, we do. We typically don't have much conversation on the second reading.
Okay.
But we certainly could postpone our current policy for the 2. So, I think partly, why don't you and I kind of figure out with Georgie how in depth this 113 is?
Right.
You get choice at the December meeting.
And we'll know more about that, I think, this weekend, because I think there's some stuff on that too. And looking into that. But once we get that, then we'll take a look at that. But there is a possibility that we will just postpone doing the policy piece like we do and have been doing the last couple of months. We may not do that in December and may just do that in January, with the understanding also our January meeting is actually our joint meeting with 120, but we will have time to go separate and just take care of minimal stuff. So we'll either skip that or we'll do that and maybe we don't do it again until February. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I just wanted to put that on everybody's radar that that's been discussed, and we'll see how busy Press 113 is, because maybe it's better to go ahead and just do it in December and skip it in January given the joint meeting. So I just wanted to make that known. I will get then the let's see, because I had just pulled it up. So where did it go? I know that we've got our assignments that we had done the last time. Anna pointed out to me after the last meeting that one of the policy pieces that we had assigned had been on my old list, and I had not updated it for the fact that it got deleted and in one of the previous press policy updates. So you only have one now instead of 2, like we had been told. But and then I had put out on the spreadsheet the December meeting one, and I do see that Georgie and Marcella have signed up. So we can go ahead and allocate those tonight, but we'll let you know whether or not we're doing that in December or in January. But that was the whole point that I wanted to get to. So with that said, tonight we are doing section 17, starting with 7:30. And I guess looks like it's Georgie starting.
7:30 just states the superintendent or assignee is going to assign classes to students, including unhoused or houseless children as per policy 6140. So straightforward, right? And then the non-public school students, including parochial and home school students, policy 7.40. There's a couple categories underneath that: part-time attendance, students with disabilities, and assignments when enrolling full-time in a district school. And sort of reading through that, I didn't see anything that was glaring to me. It looks like we're, up and up for all of that. Pretty straightforward. Part-time attendance is going to be for, again, including parochial and homeschool children that are within the district. You have a deadline of May 1st to submit that. And then a student would be accepted for partial enrollment. They do have to abide by requirements established by the school. There is a transportation piece on it. It's going to be on the same basis as the district provides transportation for full-time students. So again, those things apply to the students. Students with disability, part-time attendance for those children who've been determined that special education services are needed are also enrolled in non-public schools and enrolled in the district. So again, the requests have to be submitted by the student, parent, or guardian, and those, after identified, evaluated, and place of procedures are put into place, then the student would be receiving that. And trying to see, I probably put on my readers because I can't see the text. All right. Assignments when enrolling full-time in a district school. So again, grade placement by and academic credits are earned at a non-public school will be accepted if the school has a certificate of non-public school recognition from ISB, or if it's accredited by the state's governing education. And yeah, I don't know that there's anything else that we have to really go by that. Straightforward.
I had two comments. One, the students with a disability, I think that's probably the section that Jamie was saying earlier, they're going to look into for part-time attendance as needed to maybe deal with the attendance stuff. And so maybe that's where some of that could come in for some of the students, not all. And then there was also a part that I found interesting, which is interesting to note that a non-public school student can also be eligible to participate in some of our activities and sports events, which I actually wasn't aware of. So that's interesting that if they follow the policies to go in and do that. So as long as they attend a district school for at least half of a school day, they can, still do activities and things like that. So that's something to keep in mind that is allowed. Okay. So then, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Okay, next, school admissions and student transfers to or from non-district schools. So the background is, this is where the age comes in. You have to be 5 on or before September 1st to be enrolled in a district school. The admission procedures include birth certificate, proof of residence, and proof of health. Homeless situations. If students are homeless, they are immediately admitted. Fostering is very similar. There's just one appointed school liaison who, helps with that case. And then students may transfer in and out of their school per the state law. So that looks different. Okay, the next was residency. So if you live within the school boundaries, there is no tuition. If you're in a situation where there's a person asserting legal custody, they must have a legal statement over the custody of the student, saying that, you know, they have the right to go to that school. And this, I feel like, is noteworthy. If students move out of the district, they are still permitted to attend the school through the end of the school year. That's it.
Thank you. I did policy 770, which is about attendance and truancy. The first section of the policy lays out state laws for parents of children aged 6 through 17, and any child enrolled in a K through 8 school. It also includes exemptions for attendance in it. There is authorization protocols for absences, which include valid reasons laid out by both state laws and board policies. Then the next part of the policy is an absenteeism and truancy program that is set forth by the superintendent or designee. That program should include protocols for excused absences. Some examples of those, the main excuses are for employment, for students that actually might be employed and need to take off school for that employment. Might not apply too much to us in our setting with our age group, but also military needs. So for any of our military parents that are traveling and may have to take their students out for those needs. It includes protocols for unexcused absences, processes for tracking chronic absenteeism and truancy, a process for identifying and supporting chronically absent students, and also that includes supporting the parents as well. Programs that target at-risk students that are at risk for academic failure or dropping out. Part of that program for the at-risk students includes cooperation with local and county municipal authorities. So if there's students that are maybe with the juvenile department, that we would work with them. It also includes professional development for staff so that they can support students that demonstrate chronic truancy. And then it talks about no punitive action for minors without provisions of support services. So the students can't be punished for their truancy if there's not any support services being provided. That's 770. Any questions in 770? Okay, 780 is release time for religious instruction and observance. This policy includes protocols for excluding student absences for religious reasons. So again, both of these policies are very relevant to what we're talking about today because we see that attendance, you know, impacts that state report card. So those are my two policies.
Okay, and then I guess Marcella is up next with 790.
Okay, so the next one is release time during school hours, nothing huge. Just stating that we need a written or oral consent from parent if the child is being pulled out of school before dismissal time, or if somebody else is going to pick them up other than the custodial or the parent guardian. And if there's an early dismissal announcement, the superintendent or designee will make the effort to announce that whenever it's necessary to close the school early due to whatever reason that might be. The other one is a little bit more thorough, which is 700, I guess. It's the health, eye, and dental examinations, immunizations, and exclusions of students. And this one's a kind of long one, but mainly says some of the big important information that I think is important to remember is if it's a homeless child, nothing of the above applies. And it's towards the bottom because you have to provide they have to be admitted regardless. Other than that, they are required if they are coming in kinder or first grade or entering sixth grade, they are required to show proof of health examinations and immunizations or proof of the immunizations against. So in other words, if they're not going to do that, we also need proof of that. And they do have a timeline for it. So it's October 15th of that current school year. Parents are, need to be aware that that's the time frame. And so for some of them, they might not be able to attend school unless they show proof of that, or they need to show proof that they have set up an appointment for it as part of it. The only reason why kids could still continue to attend is based on eye examination. If it's something, I'm sorry, if it's with a dental, they can still continue going to school. And there needs to be something to provide help if needed, if they are unable to take them to a place for screening for the dental and eye examinations as well. And that's about it.
Okay. So, let's see. And then Ray is next with 130 and 140.
Okay. 130, student rights and responsibilities. So it says all students are entitled to enjoy rights protected by the U.S. and state constitutions and all laws. And students should exercise these rights reasonably and avoid violating the rights of the other students. If they violate the rights of other students or violate district policy, they will be subject to disciplinary action. And the students may, during school day, during non-instructional time, voluntarily engage in individual or collecting initiatives, non-disruptive prayer or religious-based meetings that are consistent with free exercise and are not sponsored, promoted, or endorsed in any manner by the school or any school employee. So last month, the discussion was on one of the other policies, assemblies and ceremonies, 6255. This is consistent with what we talked about with that policy as well. So next then is 7140, search and seizure. So I'm going to just read the start of this because I think it's significant, because it kind of justifies everything that follows after that. So in order to maintain order and security in the schools, school authorities are authorized to conduct reasonable searches of school property and equipment, as well as students and their personal effects. School authorities include school liaison police officers. So with that as the introduction, then it goes on and talks and explains what all this means. So school authorities basically may inspect and search school property and equipment owned or controlled by the school, which includes lockers, desks, parking lots, and all the personal effects left there by students without notice or consent to the student. Students have no reasonable expectation of privacy. Their places or areas are in their personal effects left there. So, that's a pretty significant statement. So students, superintendent may request the assistance of law enforcement officials to conduct inspections and searches of lockers, desks, parking lots, and other school property for illegal drugs, weapons, or other illegal or dangerous substances or materials, including searches conducted through the use of specially trained dogs. Students, school authorities may search a student and or the student's personal effects in the student's possession, including purses, wallets, knapsacks, book bags, lunch boxes, etc. When there is a reasonable ground for suspecting that the search will produce evidence the student is violated or is violating either the law of or the district student conduct rules. School authorities are also authorized to conduct drug and or alcohol testing of an individual student with or without parental permission when there are reasonable grounds for student is violating Board of Education policy, which is 7190, which covers student behavior. So this policy ties into that policy as well. So they are very consistent. And it goes down with prohibiting possession, use, or being under the influence of drugs or alcohol while on school grounds or at school-related activities. Will be based on observation of students' behavior and physical symptoms of drug and or alcohol use. The search itself must be conducted in a manner that is reasonably related to its objective and not excessively intrusive in light of students' age and sex and nature of infraction. When feasible, the search should be conducted outside the view of others, including students, in the presence of a school administrator or adult witness, and by a certified employee or police liaison officer of the same sex as the student. Immediately following the search, a written report shall be made by the school authority who conducted the search and notifying the superintendent. Parents shall be notified of the search as soon as possible afterwards. In a seizure of property, if search produces evidence that student has violated or is violating either the law or district policy or rules, such evidence may be seized and impounded by school authorities, and disciplinary action may be taken. When appropriate, such evidence may be transferred to law enforcement authorities. Notification regarding student accounts or profiles or social networking websites. The superintendent or designee shall notify students and parents of each of the following in accordance with the rights to privacy in the school setting Act 105 ILC 75. It's a state statute that governs it. School officials may not request or require a student or his parent to provide a password or other related account information to gain access to their profile on a social networking website. School officials may conduct an investigation or require a student to cooperate in an investigation if there is specific information about activity on the student's account on a social networking website that violates a school disciplinary rule or policy. In the course of an investigation, a student may be required to share content that is reported in order to allow school officials to make a factual determination. And that is that policy.
Okay.
Anybody has any questions or not about anything? Okay.
No, a comment that it just is going through that and seeing that was something that was interesting, that's saying if they are going to conduct a search based on, the reasonable nature of the infraction, et cetera, that it should be conducted by a certificated employee or liaison police officer of the same sex as a student. I'm wondering if that will ever be changed to be perhaps the same gender as the student as opposed to sex, but that's not anything for us to decide on. That's just something that stuck out to me as we were going through that. Okay, so mine is next. 7150, agency and police interviews. So going a step further than the search and seizure part of it, it's this policy instructs the superintendent to develop procedures to manage any requests by agency officials or police officers to interview students at school. And then it sets forth the procedures, what they will do. They will recognize rights to privacy, much as has already been stated. That recognize any potential impact of an interview may have on the student, minimize any disruption, foster a cooperative relationship between the public agencies and law enforcement, and comply with state law that it goes through. Before an officer or school resource officer, everybody is able to do that, that they would make every reasonable attempt for a student before interviewing a student under 18 that is suspected of conducting or committing a criminal act. The superintendent or designee has to attempt to notify the parent and make a record and document the time and manner of how they've tried to do that. Make reasonable efforts to ensure that the parent or guardian is present for the questioning, and if not, then they have to have a designee there and has to notice who, document who that was, and make this one. It was interesting to me. The wording is very weird, but it also says, and if practical, make reasonable efforts to ensure that a trained law enforcement officer to promote safe interactions and communications with the student is present during questioning. But if the question is being conducted by a trained legal, that seemed to conflict to me, but I'm guessing that's more of a question to look at the history and see where that came from. But I felt like that was worded very poorly. But that's not what we're evaluating here. And then student appearance is 7160. I personally like the way that this is phrased, that I think as a general matter, the policies have gotten away from being very restrictive as far as dress codes and hygiene appearances. So this just basically says a student's appearance, including dress and hygiene, must not disrupt the educational process or compromise the standards of health and safety. So that's pretty much the rule. We don't prohibit hairstyles historically associated with race, ethnicity. We don't have particular ways everyone has to wear their hair. If students do disrupt the educational process or compromise standards of health and safety, they have to modify their appearance to conform with those general broad rules. And then the procedures for guiding student appearance will be developed by the superintendent and be included in the student handbook. And then because it got cut out, then Al gets the 2-line 7170 of vandalism.
Yay. Vandalism. So the Board of Education will seek restitution from students and their parents or guardians for vandalism or other student acts that cause damage to school property. I think probably the touchy point here is going to be, you definitely need to have the proof. You can't accuse somebody of doing it without having the proof. You'd probably be treading on some legalities there. So, but you would hope so, as long as you got witnesses and whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting because, once again, didn't realize this really was part of our policies, but it's good to know because I know there was like some TikTok challenges in the past that did cause some problems. So it's interesting to note that we have this policy. I don't know that much was done about that or that it was, warranted, but it's good to know, I guess, that we have the recourse if we really wanted to. So.
Yeah. And thank you to Sarah for bringing me over the policy since my computer decided to go down the tubes.
Oh.
It's being worked on.
Okay. Well, thankfully you didn't have too arduous of a task there. So, okay. So with that, then we need to assign whether we're doing it in December or January. So Georgie and Marcella have picked, and Marcella, I'm going to go ahead and put you in for the one right above it, which was also part of that 5th section. So it's expulsion procedures and bus conduct. So we have teen dating violence prohibited, student behavior, suspension procedures, misconduct with, Eric's taking misconduct by students with disabilities, I can see. And then conduct code for participants in extracurricular activities. Does anybody have?
I got it.
No preference.
No preference.
Oh, here, Eric, you took 2. So which one do you want to keep?
I'll keep 230. Somebody else can take 240.
Okay. I can take 240 then, just to do that. Okay. And then so Who wants teen dating violence?
Emily.
Okay. And so Ray, do you want student behavior or suspension procedures?
Did you hear what they were?
Student behavior or suspension procedures?
Well, either one, whatever.
Okay, well, Al, which one do you want? Because it's you down to the two of you.
I'll take suspension.
Okay. Got it. So it's, huh?
Student behavior then?
Yep, student behavior, 17190. Okay, so that'll be on that spreadsheet, and Anna has that, so she can do that, and we'll figure out whether that'll be December or January once we have the press 113.
What is what, 7 what?
Al, yours is 7,200.
7,200, okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that concludes, I think, the policy committee report.
On the finance committee now?
Correct.
And then I'm all up to Bob later. Okay, Finance Advisory Committee. We haven't had a meeting, but as you know, tax levy has been the issue. We had a, truth and taxation public hearing tonight, and, the tax levy, is on for, approval later on in the meeting. Care services.
We are meeting tomorrow. That's it.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
All right, good. Community outreach.
So Ray and I are both planning on attending a community outreach session. It's supposed to be interactive on Saturday afternoon. So